Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And we've already jabbed you with UFC earlier in the week. And today we have a surprise guest, a special guest, if you call it. We are joined by the wonderful Mr. Dane Dupaul. Dane, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Appreciate. So, Dane, tell us a bit about yourself. I know you are going to college at the University of North Dakota, I believe.
Correct. I'm technically first semester of fifth year of the double major of high altitude unmanned aircraft systems and commercial aviation.
Very impressive stuff. And you just got certified in something, I believe.
Yes, I just got my flight instructor certificate. So
Well, incredible. Congratulations. Gotta give it to you on that.
thank you. Thank you.
So yes, you are a very big sports fan, just as I am. Very huge Vikings fan. Dare I say, super fan?
Uh, we can borderline. We can do that possibly. I'll agree to that.
Very much so. Any other leagues you like to follow besides football?
Very loosely follow the MLB. Very loosely the NHL, but it's mostly the NFL is kind of my forte.
I agree. It's just one of those sports where like it's not as long as MLB and NBA and NHL, so you can appreciate it more. And while you can wait one full week for one game, the other sports are watching 3 games a week.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, any hobbies? Anything you want to tell people about yourself?
Uh, I mean, just playing video games with you and the boys
Obviously.
is one of the big ones. Hanging out with friends. Not a whole lot to do up here in Grand Forks,
Yeah.
so take that with you will.
Yeah, I know. I was always been thinking about recording us playing and stuff, but I always worry about how the internet would take to some of the things that are said.
Yeah, we'll just leave that at that.
Oh man. But yes, I have a lot planned today, a lot of NFL talk. Gonna be having you blind rank some things, guess some stadium names, some facts, talk about fantasy football. I'm gonna give you a ranking someone made of the 32 NFL quarterbacks to start week one. And we're also gonna give our week one predictions for all 16 games.
I like it. I like it.
Sounds good. So let's get into it with a little fun activity I always like to do when I have a guest on. I think I've done it twice now, is blind ranking. I always like to have people blind rank. Do you know how that works?
I do. I do.
Very much so. So I'm going to give you 10 NFL teams as a whole, and I want you to rank them on a 1 to 10 scale for this upcoming season.
Gotcha. All right.
All right. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. First team I'm going to give you is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Huh.
Where are they going on the 1 to 10 scale?
Last year, improvement. Trevor Lawrence is starting to develop. They got Calvin Ridley this year. I'm going to throw them at 5. I think the Jags, solid 5 right in the middle. They'll probably make, if not the division, definitely a wild card spot in the AFC. So I'm going to put them at a solid 5.
I completely agree. A lot more is expected this year. I feel like Trevor Lawrence is starting to look more NFL caliber than he was his like rookie year of sorts. So I very much like the 5 spot for them. Next up, we're gonna go with a big name, the Bills, the Buffalo Bills.
I'm gonna put them at 2, just because until proven otherwise, they are, other than the Chiefs, the team to beat in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals got the best of them last year, and that was probably one of their down games of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm still gonna throw them at 2. I think Josh Allen, Diggs, and all of them coming back. I think they're still going to be impressive, and I think other than the Chiefs, they're still the team to beat.
I very much think so. They have a lot to prove this year. They're supposed to have been the team the last like 3 or 4 years, and they went from running up in the AFC conference to losing in the wild card. I don't even know if they lost in the wild card, but
Divisional.
it was
It was the
divisional.
divisional
That's what I
round.
was thinking of. Just embarrassing. Let me give you one. The Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens.
You know, I'm going to throw them towards the bottom of the list. I think I'm
Okay.
going to throw 9.
9. Interesting.
Yeah, see, my whole thing is Lamar Jackson obviously has been impressive his last few years, but he's coming off a knee injury, and mobile quarterbacks, especially that utilize his legs as much as he does, uh, you never know. Once you get one injury on your knee, you never know when it's going to hit back. There's those rare anomalies where you get people like Adrian Peterson who can bounce back, have great years after terrible knee injuries, but then you get people like RG3 or those quarterbacks that one knee injury and they're backups for the rest of their career. So we'll see how Lamar can carry it. They got some weapons, but Odell hasn't been proven to stay healthy. Bateman
No,
hasn't really stayed healthy, and Mark Andrews is also coming off. I don't remember what his injury was. I think it was a leg of some
he did
sort.
get hurt
So
last year. Yes.
so we'll see. I think their defense is going to be pretty good, but it's all going to see if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy. But I'm not sure, so I'm throwing him at 9.
Agree. And now that you mentioned that, I'm even thinking that J.K. Dobbins was hurt, what, all last year, just about? I
Yep,
mean, their whole roster's fresh this year, but they're not actually fresh with their bodies, if you know what I'm saying.
exactly.
All right. So Ravens at 9. How about the Tennessee Titans? Interesting team.
I've got to put them at 10. Derrick Henry, as he's carried that team for a couple years, but he's only getting older. And everyone said he's been regressed the last few years, and he really hasn't. What,
No.
1,500, 1,600 yard seasons? But that can only take you so far. And Tannehill kind of getting a little older. He's always just been a game manager. None of their rookie quarterbacks is Malik Willis unproven, and Will Levis has not been great from what we've seen of him in the pros at all. So we're just gonna stick them at 10 and let it ride.
I like it. It's tough when they add DeAndre Hopkins, and Ryan Tannehill is just not the guy to throw it deep when you have Derrick Henry. But in the back, I don't know what they're going to do with him.
Agreed.
I mean, we saw nothing happen with Robert Woods last year. Nothing.
Yeah, he's now in Houston, I believe, and their rookie last year, Traylon Burks, he got hurt versus their joint practices with the Vikings, so that even hits their wide receiver depth even more.
No idea what's going on in Tennessee. Let's go up the East Coast to the New England Patriots.
I'm throwing them again at 8 towards the list,
I
a little
like it.
more. Honestly, if I didn't throw the Ravens at 9, I probably would have thrown them at 9. Mac Jones, I guess Belichick has faith in him. They cut every quarterback on the team except Mac Jones.
I know.
A Belichick defense is usually pretty good, so that is solid, but their offense, they signed Zeke because Ramondre Stevenson said last year that he had too many touches and he didn't want as big of a load.
I don't get that.
A story came out 2 days ago with how valid that is. Juju's knee is going to explode at any time, which
Yeah.
don't know where that came from, but we'll see if Mac Jones can play as used. I mean, granted, the Vikings defense was terrible last year, but with mediocre wide receivers, Mac Jones torched the Vikings defense for probably his career high of passing. So maybe with some weapons and some time, Mac can do something, but I'm going to throw him at 8 just for the uncertainty of the whole thing.
Yeah, they're such a mediocre team. They don't really have any star players of sorts. I mean, I think the best part of their team would probably be the defense. I think they finished 4th last year for fantasy football points, and I certainly draft them in some of my leagues, but I don't really know what to say about the Patriots. After Tom Brady left, not much has happened.
Exactly. Never know.
All right, we'll move to a team that we are both familiar with for reasons, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm gonna throw them at 6. They're probably around the same tier as the Jaguars. Their defense always going to be pretty good, and it's that Tomlin curse gift, whatever you can call it. They're always going to finish mid to high rank. They're never going to have a losing
Just 500.
season. Exactly. They're going to swoop into the playoffs, and that's when they can make something happen. Defense is going to be pretty good. Other than, I'm not a huge believer in Kenny Pickett, contrary to some popular belief, but George Pickens obviously got some skill. Deontay Johnson is fast, but he just needs to hold on to the football. He drops it.
Exactly.
And with Najee Harris now kind of, I don't want to say degrading because he's like 24 years old, but
He's just falling off skill-wise. It doesn't even make sense.
and then, but they got the Jalen Warren, who was a rookie last year, coming in. He showed some flashes in the preseason, which, I mean, take it for what you will. It's preseason, but if they got a
Mhm.
nice little 1-2 punch there, throwing it to Deontay Pickens, Fryermuth is a pretty decent wide
Love
receiver.
Prime.
Uh, they got a pretty. I'd put them on this about the same tier as the Jaguars.
I agree. They a lot of teams this year with something to prove. I just don't expect that much out of them this year. They haven't made too many moves that make me go, "Wow, they're going to make an impact in the AFC East." Or no, North,
North,
AFC North.
AFC North.
Too many divisions. Moving on to a interesting team in the NFC, the 49ers.
If I didn't put Bills at 2, I would have put these guys. I'm going to put them at 3.
Interesting.
The only thing really holding them back is we'll see what Brock Purdy does. They have one of the most loaded rosters in the NFL. Their defense
Mhm.
was insane last year. Their offense, basically, they had Brock Purdy, who was just driving in cruise control, dumping it off to Debo, to Kittle, to Ayuk, handing the ball off to McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. It is one of the most loaded NFL rosters out there. And if Purdy even slightly replicates what he did last year, I don't see how anyone stops him.
No, I mean, I see Debo, he's projected 14 points for week 1. He should be in the 17, 18 range, in my opinion, if there weren't so many targets for the 49ers to go with. I mean, you can run with McCaffrey, throw it to him, Kittle, and Ayuk, he's such a good asset. I love Ayuk as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason they didn't make it last year is because they literally ran out of quarterbacks. So,
That was a hilarious situation. I love that
yeah,
last year.
yeah, it was a little hard to watch, but we'll see.
All right, this it's funny how I listed these teams because I list them in order to kind of make you go, "Oh, my list." But the Cleveland Browns.
Actually, I'll throw them at 7.
Okay. Oh, 7's still available. I like it.
Yep. I mean, say what you will. Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson. We're not going to spew some of my opinions on here about his past, but um, I mean, this is a make or break year for them. They just signed him for what, 4 more years, so over
Nothing.
$200 million. Their offense is about as good as it's ever going to be. Their defense, they added a few guys, of not really any off the top of my names, but um, they this is their make or break year. Zadarius Smith, didn't they just sign? Didn't they take him from us? I believe
Do they
they
still have Jadeveon Clowney?
No, he went to the Ravens, I believe. But they got Miles Garrett,
Oh,
Zadarius Smith off one edge. It, this is a make or break year. If they can't win with this roster, then I'm not sure they'll ever win anything.
no, and Deshaun Watson, I understand he missed pretty much all of last season, but when he came back, I don't know if it was rust or just it had to have been because he showed nothing. He was absolutely terrible. I don't know how it's gonna go for him. So you have 2 teams left on your list. Um, kind of regret saving this team for you, but one of them is the Washington Commanders.
You know, I'll throw them at 4 because this just means you're going to screw me with whoever's left at 1. Uh,
Guess so.
the Commanders, their defense, their front 4 is probably. I guess I haven't seen who they've changed out at ends, but Jerron Payne, Jonathan Allen. I guess they're going to do with Chase Young. They have one of the best front 4s in the NFL.
It's good.
Um, they added some corners in the draft, I believe, and their defense is probably one of the best. Terry McLaurin, underrated wide receiver. Jahan Dotson played really well last year. I believe it was his rookie
A lot
year.
of hype from him.
I like him. Logan Thomas has always been a skilled tight end for the few games he plays in a season. It's usually like 4 or 5 games, then he hurts a knee or something. But
Yep.
the biggest question mark is, and I really like him from what I've seen, is Sam Howell, the rookie last year, quarterback. He played the last few games last year. He looked really good.
Mhm.
And even Ron Rivera has come out and said, there's no really question mark at quarterback anymore. If I would have known how good this guy was, I would have played him more last year. So I'm curious to see how he does. And I think he's going to do pretty decent.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from a basketball school, if you want to call UNC that, Sam Howell is going to be Sam Howell. I'm excited to see what he offers. I'm also interested to see how the running back room goes. They have another split backfield this time with Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson. I love Antonio Gibson. He came in clutch for me in fantasy probably 2 years ago, but then last year they started splitting it with who was it? McKissick? Was he
Brian
the one
Robinson
last
came
year?
back. He was last year. There was him, and I think McKissick was still there. I'm not sure if he's still in
I
this
don't know.
year, but there was like three of them.
Commanders should be interesting. I want to sign the petition to sign them back to Redskins. You hear about that?
I did. I don't mind it. I still sometimes call them the Redskins just because it's what I've known for the last, I don't know, 15 years until
I
they
know.
changed
I
it.
I
But
enjoyed that name, but the Commanders, I guess that's their name. They need a cool logo or something. Honestly, that's how they can fix it.
agreed. I guess we'll see.
All right, Dane, you want to read off your list before I reveal your number one team?
So at 10, we have the Tennessee Titans. 9, the Baltimore Ravens. 8, the Patriots. 7, the Cleveland Browns. 6, Pittsburgh Steelers. 7, Jacksonville Jaguars. 4, Washington Commanders. 3, 49ers. And 2, Buffalo Bills.
And your number one team is, drumroll please, the Jets.
You know, that is not preposterous. I was kind of saying that open that you throw the Chiefs there because I definitely would have thrown the Chiefs at one. I think they are still the
Uh,
team to beat, defending champions. But you throw in the Jets there that on paper have one of the most loaded rosters in the NFL, probably one
yep,
of the best running back rooms. Dalvin Cook, Brees Hall, and Michael
love
Carter.
them.
I guess I don't know if they've traded him yet, but
I forgot about
uh,
Michael.
that is probably the best running back room. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen play the game. Some of the throws he makes are ridiculous. Wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, reigning offensive rookie of the year. Alan Lazard, how Randall Cobb made a team, I don't know, but
Just keep
uh,
listing them. There's so many stars on this team.
Mecole Hardman, it's it's a whole bunch. And then their defense, I mean, Quentin Williams is probably the best D tackle in football. That dude's an animal. If you've watched any of Hard Knocks this season following them, that defense is going to be pretty scary. That's all you can really say about him. Honestly, pretty loaded.
I agree, and Hard Knocks has been fun. I've been enjoying the clips coming out of that. I always love seeing that stuff, but I don't know if those teams, they never really perform to the level of having their own show. But the Jets should be super interesting. How Aaron Rodgers plays, I would not take him in fantasy though, personally.
I don't know.
Would
I
you?
think he's gonna. I have a family league, and I waited and snagged him. I think he's gonna play out of his mind. I mean, Dalvin's specialty is screen passes out of the backfield. Gets one of those 1 or 2 a year, 70-yard screen passes, as we know all too well.
Yeah,
Snag some of those. Garrett Wilson's gonna, I think, have a huge year. His offensive rookie of the year was kind of underwhelming. It was like 6 touchdowns and 800 yards. I think
yeah.
that's gonna shoot up this year. I think Rodgers is definitely going to help Garrett Wilson's production too. So
I agree. He went from a flex option last year to wide receiver one on fantasy teams.
agreed.
Incredible stuff from him. Speaking of which, moving on from our blind ranking, we'll get into some fantasy football talk. Do you have any teams currently?
I have a couple. Yes, we did some weird one two
Yes,
days
we had a weird
ago.
draft with
We had
some
a very
people we put
weird.
together.
I have a friends one that we've been doing since sophomore, junior year of high school that we've
Oh,
kept
that's
going.
amazing.
I have one that's pretty funny. It's with all the neighborhood dads that I've been in since I was 13. That one, and then I have a family league. So I've got a couple. Which, as funny as it is, the 4 leagues is probably the least amount I've been in quite a while. It's
Wow.
usually like 5 or 6 because you guys throw some like weird league. Like this one is usually like now, and I've already have like 4 or 5 leagues in the. So I, I've got a few of them.
Yes. So, out of your teams, who are some players that you're happy you were able to get?
This year, and I've helped our mutual friend Tyler with his teams.
Yes.
The two biggest ones that I'm a big fan of is Nick Chubb and Chris Olave. Nick Chubb
Mm,
lost a lot of production with Kareem Hunt there. Kareem Hunt's gone now. Your backup is Jerome Ford. Who is that? Exactly. So you're going to have Nick Chubb getting all of these carries, all of these yards, hopefully all these goal line touches.
Yes,
Um,
lots.
Gives you a shot to put up a lot of numbers. And Chris Olave, who with Andy Dalton and I don't even know if Jameis played last year, with what those two gave him last year, pretty darn good. You throw someone consistent like Derek Carr in there, I think Chris Olave is bound to have a huge year.
I agree.
So I like those. Those are my two biggest ones. I have snagged Cooper Cup from previous years just because I
Uh-huh.
love Cooper Cup. Unfortunately, now his hamstring is looking kaput. So we'll see how often he plays this year, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I love the Olave pick. I'm looking at Derek Carr throwing to Devontae Adams, and I can easily see you switching out Devontae for Chris Olave, catching that deep ball. As for Nick Chubb, you said it perfectly. I mean, Kareem Hunt was the only one that was holding back his fantasy potential at times last year. If he stays healthy, he's an absolute killer. What round are you getting him in? Is he round one for you? Later pick?
It, I guess it really depends on where you're picking, but yeah, he's usually around one, and that's usually about where he goes. Most of my leagues, I think the earliest I've picked is, I think it was fifth.
Uh-huh.
So he usually falls. He's projected like right around that 7 through 11, so in that kind
Okay.
of range. So if I mean I like the guy, I'm going to snag him at 5 because I think ESPN, a lot of them have Travis Kelsey at 5, which I love Travis Kelsey as next guy, but he's more of a on the turn of the rounds 9 into 10 rather
Yes.
than middle of the first round. So I usually snag him with my first pick if he's still there, unless someone like Cooper Cup or any crazy wide receiver that has somehow fallen because people have their own weird top 5 pick. But it's usually Chubb is who I've taken first.
Yeah, it's always tough because I always wonder, let's say they don't list like their rankings for the players, who would you pick? I always think about that. If you just have like a list of all the teams and all the positions, who are you picking? And I mean, do they have leagues like that? I don't know of any like that. I feel like every site has to have them listed.
Yeah, it helps people who don't want to print out the sheets and do all their own research. It's just like boom, it's right there.
Mhm. Yeah. So, any sleeper picks that you landed, you think people should take? Any advice you can give someone?
I guess I can scroll over, just look at some of my teams. I mean, if you want a late round snag, Jordan Addison, probably I think I've gotten him in like the 9th, 10th round. Obviously, a little Vikings bias, but he has a real potential to be rookie of the year between Gibbs, Addison, Zay Flowers. There's some big name wide receivers in the rookie market that may be a good
Mhm.
snag. Someone who I think, speaking of Gibbs, is going to take quite a few goal line carries, or at least some of those, is David Montgomery.
Yes.
I a big like on him. I think he was always a solid RB1 in Chicago. Nothing great, but enough to get you some points.
Yep.
Um, so I'm a big liker of him. And then if you can, and I've tried to do this in most of my leagues, is around like 4 or 5, snag Alvin Kamara. Yeah, you're gonna bite the bullet for 3 weeks because he's suspended. But
Yeah.
having now Derek Carr dumping passes off to you instead of Andy Dalton, I think opens it up a lot more for your PPR leagues of Alvin Kamara.
I completely love it. On my team, from my 112-man league, I have Addison currently on my bench. I mean, you take JJ out for a week. He's wide receiver 1 or 2. His only competition right now, I think, is KJ Osborne. Now, obviously, the only issue is that TJ Hawkinson is going to take a bunch of catches. Kirk loves TJ Hawkinson. So I would definitely go with TJ Hawkinson if you could get him. But what round is my question? Because I feel like you can reach at times and take him too early, but then if you wait too late, he's gone. Like he's
Yeah,
just one of those players that just disappears off the board and you don't even notice.
my honest philosophy of drafting is if you have your guy and you think he's gonna do good, there's no real unless it's like an egregious like taking him in the second round. We're not gonna do crazy things like that. But I mean, I've seen him go at like 4 or 5 just because he is after Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. He's actually ranked right around where George Kittle is. So honestly, he's 3A, 3B to George Kittle.
Mhm.
Tight end is such a weird position where it can save you or it can screw you over. You've got 5, 6, 7 good ones, and the rest you're scratching for crumbs there. It's not great. So if you got a good one like Hawkinson, grab him 4th, 5th round if
Yeah.
you have some stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I like him. I also Dalton Schultz. I really like him on the Texans. The only issue I have is probably CJ Stroud. I don't know who he's going to be targeting, how he's even going to do. So I think that could limit my potential for Dalton Schultz. But I do have him as my starting tight end in one of my leagues because, as you were saying, there's not that many star tight ends.
I honestly didn't even realize he left the Cowboys and totally forgot about that. But yeah, Houston's a really weird team. They had Devin Singletary, so they've got Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary at running backs. Their wide receiver is literally a bunch of hodgepodge. It's Robert Woods, Tank Dell is the rookie, Xavier Hutchinson, another rookie, Michi, who I think was hurt last year and now is coming back. Nico Collins. They've got just a bunch of hodgepodge wide receivers. We'll
Hmm.
see if they can do something crazy. I think their defense is going to be legit between Devin Singletary of last year or what whatever the corner was last year. Stingley, Derek Stingley.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, and then Will Anderson, who they snagged the 3rd pick trading with Arizona this year. I think
Yeah,
their defense is going to be much better than it was last year. Do I think they're going to be a competitor for their division? Not really, but I definitely think they're going to show improvement over possible 1st to 2nd overall pick.
man, honestly, the South is up for grabs, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I guess
Jags. It's Jacksonville's division to lose at this point.
that's a perfect way to phrase it. I love that. Any players you're putting on the don't draft list? Any players that you kind of went in saying, even if they're available, I'm not taking them?
I mean, the easy answer is Jonathan Taylor, but now it's more of a just don't draft him because he's not going to be playing the first 4 rounds.
No.
But we can just kind of go again, just for the reasons we talked about in the blind ranking, quarterbacks wise, Lamar Jackson. I don't know how he's going to be if his knee will blow up. Uh, Mark Andrews was the same way. Those two specifically,
Mhm.
both coming off injuries. And Mark Andrews, he screwed me over a few times last year with him just not playing.
It did
And
make sense. He'd get one
yeah,
catch a game.
and even Hopkins. Hopkins is kind of a guy. If we talked about it when we were talking about the Titans,
Mhm.
Tannehill's not known for his downhill throwing. I mean, even betting places have his reception touchdowns at over under 4.5. That's that's not great.
Whoa.
Um, so we'll see what that comes to. But it's Lamar, Mark Andrews, and Hopkins are kind of the 3 that I am staying away from.
Yeah, me personally, I've done this every single year. I never even look at Kyle Pitts. He's always on the board. I don't see anything special out of Kyle Pitts. Ever since college, he's done nothing in the league. He has
I
one
will
good game maybe occasionally.
I will say that I did take it. I waited too long in my friends league. Where most of my draft is spectacular. Then I go down to my tight end, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I took a gamble on him. I think the rest of my team is decent enough to where it can compensate for that.
Mhm.
But Kyle Pitts is definitely a boom or bust for
I
that.
mean, as much as I, don't really care for Kyle Pitts, the tight end position, he could have an amazing week, he could have an off week. It's there's no way to even predict that. You only really have Kelsey, who put up consistent numbers all last year, which is why he worked his way up to the top 5 of fantasy drafts.
Yeah, I guess we can also see too. There's a bunch of compelling starting quarterbacks because we talked about Sam Howell, but Drew DeRitter starting for Atlanta now. Maybe that is the breakout that Kyle Pitts needs. Maybe that turns into a potent offense because they got decent weapons with Pitts,
Mhm.
Drake London. I really like. Do I buy the hype of Mac Hollins looking all ripped at training camp where that whole thing was going off? But their three-headed dragon at running back between Patterson, Tyler Algier, and Bijan Robinson.
Oof.
That could be a pretty darn good offense if DeRitter can manage it better than Noodle Arm, Matt Ryan, and then Marcus Mariota. So we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, the Falcons have an interesting team this year. It's for fantasy owners, running back room could make things complicated. I was definitely not taking Bijan in round 1. I don't know about you. I don't understand how he worked his way up that high.
I completely agree. I was gonna usually you try to find in round one those non-running back by committee groups, and he
Yes.
seemed to have been going a little too high for a three-man running back by committee.
It's getting a little crowded over there. Who's a guy that did really good last year who you think's fallen off? For example, Jonathan Taylor 2021 compared to Jonathan Taylor 2022.
I mean, Mixon has always been kind of that guy that you'll like see
Mhm.
him there. That's always been the joke. You see him there in the third round, RB1 staring at you, and then you find out there's a reason he's there in the third round because he'll
Yep.
get like 5 points for 3 weeks. And then the 1 week you bench him, he puts up 35. So I think, I guess we'll see what Joe Burrow's health is. If Joe Burrow is playing, start week one, he should be maybe there. But if Joe Burrow's
Oh,
out, maybe Mixon is actually a viable option because I don't even remember who their backup is, but they're obviously going to be handing the ball off because you can have elite weapons at wide receiver, but if you got Joe Schmo throwing him the football,
it's not
doesn't
gonna do
really
it.
do much for you. So
No, I honestly think that Josh Jacobs might fall off this year. That's what that's
I
that's that's who my Jonathan Taylor is this year.
I agree with that. And kind of going along that same, you just brought that up. I'm just talking to Josh's. As know I had him at number two, but Josh Allen kind of showed a little bit of regression back to his old crazy gunslinger self. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
Josh Allen. I have his jersey. I am a Josh Allen fan, but
Yes.
he scares me with some of the stuff he does, and some of I mean, again, it's preseason, but he didn't look great going up against mediocre talent. So I'm hoping and praying that he's not regressing, but I don't think Josh Allen is going to put up the fantasy numbers he did his first breakout year and then last year.
No, it'll ugh, just another team, the Bills, that who knows what to expect from them this year. Speaking of which, the Buffalo Bills, on a bit of more fun side, I'm gonna ask you about 3 Minnesota Vikings moments where you were and just if you recall what your experience is when you first saw these events.
Oh, these are going to be great. I'm telling
So,
you.
we're gonna go from a good moment, a bad moment, then a good moment, okay?
All
And
right.
then you can give me some other ones if they come to mind. So, speaking of Josh Allen, that Vikings Bills game last year, the one with JJ's incredible catch, the overtime game. I don't even know how he came back from that. Do you remember where you were for that game?
I do. So since coming up to college, I've been incredibly blessed to have family up here. So I go over to our friend Z Lars's house. That's
Z-Lars.
where I go. That's where I go to watch my football Sundays. And so I believe that was a 3:25 game. So
It was.
watching all the noon games, everything went fine. And then the Vikings game started. And I mean, it started off as most of the Vikings games did that
Just terrible.
year.
We start so bad.
Starting, we throw a first drive touchdown, and then we go down by like 14 points. And I was just like, oh, so good for us. We got the 8-1 Viking or 8-0 Vikings versus the 7-1 Bills. It's supposed to be a great showdown in there, showing who's the bigger team. And it was kind of like that up until halftime. I think first drive out of half, Kirk throws that awful pick that he talks about in quarterback where he totally thought the white jersey was like a Viking for some reason. He just like quick threw it because he was about to die. And
Oh,
it
it
was
was a
like right to
gross
the guy.
interception. Ugh.
It was as he threw it, he just goes, "Oh no!" and picks it off. And I mean, it looked pretty bleak at that point. But then I believe it was end of the third. I even specifically remember saying it. I was just like, "We need to score before the end of the third quarter. This game's over." And it was like 3 plays later that drive because there was like 2:30 left. Dalvin takes that stretch 70 yards, which we're gonna miss this year without him. He takes that stretch 70 yards for a touchdown. I was like, okay, here we go. And then, of course, the fourth quarter Vikings show up. and make it a
Yeah.
7-point game. And then we get to that moment, the 4th and 18, that Justin Jefferson makes the insane catch. I was basically just sitting in the back, just like, oh, well, he throws it. I believe all of us were just like, ugh! Just like, what the hell happened? And he came down with that. And I mean, I guess to probably not allow them to challenge, they ran up to the line so fast, like run another play, that
Uh-huh.
no one even really got to like, what the hell was that? What just happened?
I
And
know.
ran up, and I believe it's that same drive. I could be mistaken. It's been however many months since that drive. That's where they got stuffed at that goal line. Was there one more drive, or did they score on that one?
I believe we scored on that.
That
Then
was the drive after.
didn't we throw a pick or something? But then we forced a fumble. Like you said, it happened a while ago. I remember the specific moment JJ made that
Yeah,
catch. I was at my
that,
friend buddy's house. All the guys were there. We're all sitting around the TV. I have my bag on, ready to leave. I'm standing at the stairs to walk down. He makes the catch. I throw my bag. I'm like, oh my goodness, how did that just happen? And then what did that go on? Like another 30 minutes, an hour? I mean, just an experience for that whole game.
Oh yeah, I don't even think that was probably the biggest memorable moment was the the QB sneak that didn't get in onto the fumble. That was probably the
Yes.
biggest moment of that game, where I specifically remember, because I still to this day it looks like he get in, because you can't really see, he like fell this way as to the camera, and you like can't
Mhm.
see where the ball is. I remember, because that review went for like 10 minutes. I was just like sitting down on the ground. I was like, he's in, he's in, he's in, he's in. And then they eventually called. I was like, oh, well, so I just sat down on the couch, like all depressed. And then I was like, oh crap, there's still time left. Just force a fumble or force a safety.
All
Because
you
there's
gotta do.
no room for him to take a knee. And so force a safety, then you have to go down and score a touchdown, kick a field goal. That was what I was thinking. Like, do your thing. But then that play, and I think I couldn't speak after, because I think I just started screaming after that
Yep,
fumble
yep.
recovery. And whew, that was pretty cool. And then of course our defense lets Josh Allen, with 50 seconds left, march down and tie it, which was enough. That whole game was full of just controversial moments, because even on that drive for the Bills to kick a field goal to tie it, there was a deep, like 30 to 40-yard throw to Gabe Davis, which for some reason, because it was within 2 minutes, the
Yeah.
refs didn't review, and he dropped it. It was an incomplete pass, and that was on like 3rd and 10 or something.
I remember this. That was
And then they reviewed like a play 2 plays later. That was like the most obvious completion. It was like, good one, refs. I'm glad you're wearing the uniform. And it was like, oh, it's dumb.
that was an amazing game. Vikings last season. Regular season Vikings were incredible last season.
I think it
But
won game of the year for obvious reasons. It was,
easily. And I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the rare football games I would actually go back and rewatch. Like if you say like if you could rewatch a game, I would rewatch that game.
agreed.
Very much enjoyed it. Let's go back around I don't know if it's been 10 years, 8 years, time's flying. A certain Seattle Seahawks game to tie it. Blair Walsh, do you remember where you were when Blair Walsh missed that kick?
Oh, that wasn't to tie it. That was to win it. That was
Wasn't it 9-12?
nope. It
9
was like 9-10. It was to win. Oh, so this is the funniest story, and my parents always bring it up to like mess with. Oh, Dane, you big fan you are. And I don't remember if my sister had basketball or something. She had something going on, so my parents were all gone, and I was sitting at the house watching the Vikings game, obviously. I just remember it being a back and forth, slugfest. As we said, the score was like 9-10. We had held them to nothing, but then there was some wild ass Russell Wilson scramble back 40 yards, throw it into the
He like
air.
slipped
And
and then he threw it, didn't he?
yeah, and
Yes.
Kendricks, I think, was like right over his fingertips. And I think it was Lockett who caught it. It was like, oh, of course, or it was Doug Baldwin, or it was someone. It was
Was
like,
it?
oh, that's dumb. And then I scored a touchdown. And so we had like a 2-minute drive. Marched down the field. I think Teddy threw a mildly deep shot, which was hard for him to do, to Kyle Rudolph. and I think he got in the field goal range. They like put it down there, ready to go. I still cringe listening to that audio. Just Blair Walsh, 27 yards wide left, and we've always had big dogs in our household. So we had
Oh
this
yeah.
big old dog bed laying in the corner. And where did my parents come back to find 13, 14-year-old me? Curled up on that dog bed. Not crying, but just like, eh. It was it was brutal. And going into, because
Oh.
it was obviously a Sunday, and going into school next Monday, I was obviously obviously depressed because I let the NFL describe my mood for the next month afterwards. I had Spanish seventh hour of middle school, and this I must have known. I don't even remember who was in the sixth hour, but they must have known that the Vikings lost. So there was a little fake like potted plant. I see if I can find a picture of it
Oh my
on my
gosh.
phone, and they put a little note in it that said that we're sorry for your loss. And it was what are you gonna do? That was a tough one.
No, I remember I was at a traveling basketball event. They had a TV like posted out where the concessions were, and everyone's just waiting for their game, so everyone's just crowded around it. And it was almost one of those moments where like I expected a flag to be thrown or something. Like the kick was so bad, I was like, something must have happened. But then no, that's the game. Just oh my goodness, one of the worst Vikings moments in. ah, I'd say
I
top
mean,
five,
it's
top
a
three
field
even.
goal. The field goals contribute for most of those moments. Let's be real here.
Oh man, but let's end the ones that I have listed with my opinion the greatest Minnesota Vikings moment, maybe postseason moment of all time, the Minneapolis Miracle. Do you remember that? One of the craziest moments in
I
sports.
do. It is. It's absolutely bizarre. I think it was like one of the only times a playoff game had been walked off a winner in the as time expired. Absolutely, well, touchdown, not a field goal. Obviously, field goals would happen,
Yeah,
but
touchdown.
um, we were in our basement watching it on our TV downstairs, and I just remember because my aunt and uncle and my little cousin were over. He was like, I don't know, 2 at the time, so he's a small one. He was just playing with Legos out in the
Yeah,
living
it's a
room.
little kid.
Yeah, exactly. So we kick the field goal, go up, and then the Saints march right back down and kick another field goal, go up. And we're all just like, I got to get in the field goal range because there was what, like 50 seconds left.
There was no
Drive,
time.
yeah, drive did like kind of stalled or whatever. We get the first down though, and obviously that play steps back or play starts. Keaton steps back, steps into it, throws it, and as he catches it, I remember him going under, and I specifically remember as he like touchdown, my dad yelling, "Get out of bounds!" to kick like a field goal, and then and all of us were just kind of like, "What?" And then as he starts turning upfield, and no one from the safety is
Yeah,
going to hit
there's
him,
no one back
everyone's just
there.
like, screaming. And the only reason I bring up my little cousin is because we scared the crap out of him. He was just sitting there playing with Legos. I was not watching the Vikings game, and everyone started screaming, "Oh my god!" And we may have made him cry, which is
That's
kind of
amazing.
funny.
Oh, it's not
But
amazing. I don't know why I'm saying a child cried. It's amazing.
oh, but it was one of those moments where you're just like, there's no way there is no flags. This doesn't happen to us. We don't get
No.
these moments. So it was oh, that was some moment.
I remember I'm in my living room and he goes up for it, he catches it, and I see the two Saints players collide, and I almost thought like it was like another Vikings player or something, and I was like, oh, he just hit a illegal hit. They're gonna call a flag. I was like, wait, that's the Saints players. And everyone, I think their moment they realized that like this is happening. It's like when he was going downfield, and right when he scores, Diggs throws off the helmet. I mean, I'm just running in circles around my house, just an amazing experience, especially as a Vikings fan. You said it. We don't have those moments.
One of the most underrated moments is when he threw his helmet. You could see the ref in the background like throw a flag, like he was gonna give him an excessive celebration. But then he
Yeah.
realized the game was over, so it really didn't matter. So you could
No,
just see
no.
him like walk over and like scoop up the flag and stuff it back in his pocket. And he was like, "Oh my god!"
Man, I loved it. Can you think of any Vikings moments that come to mind for you?
I mean, we kind of talked about it the other night, but '09 was probably the first moment. I think that was the first time, and probably one of the only times I've ever cried over a football game. That was '09 was brutal. The NFC Championship game with the Saints. That was rough. There was so much hype around that year with Favre coming in, and we were a great offense. You could still kind of go back and watch some highlights of that year of like our offense would score pretty quickly. We'd probably average about the high
Yeah.
20s, low 30 points a game. Our defense, and it's insane to see, but there's be plays where our D line is like getting pressure on the quarterback before he can even like do his drop step. It
Mhm.
was Ray Edwards, Jared Allen. I think Everson Griffin was on that team. Brian Robinson. We had some menaces on that D line,
Yeah, we did.
and it was brutal. And what makes it worse is I wasn't really listening. I was listening to a podcast with Brian Robinson. It was probably like a year or two ago. And after
Yep.
that game, like obviously they have friends on other teams, and he was talking to someone on the Saints, and he was basically told Brian, was like, "Yeah, if you guys would have beat us, you would have killed these guys at the Super Bowl." And that hit pretty deep because I was like, "Oh my god, why?"
That It's so true. I mean, Brett Favre was that leader to take us there, and that one mistake, the one interception, threw it all away.
Yeah, that absolutely brutal.
And I mean, I would honestly, this is just like still fresh in my mind because it was the last Vikings game, but the Giants game, it just felt like the whole game, it was our game to lose. Like we just, even this that final drive, we were doing nothing good, and it just sticks in my mind that we were 13-4. It was supposed to, we were the best team in our conference in my opinion. I know obviously the Eagles were in there, but I just feel like we had been on such a streak, and just that Giants game just was like, wow, we actually are not that team.
I mean, there was a pretty glaring issue with our team last year. Our defense was the worst in the league, and I feel like it's unfortunate because it shows kind of a bad reflection, as you'll come to find out. I love Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback, but that our defense almost every single year he's been here has been bottom to bottom half of the
Terrible.
league. And it's just that game, Kirk did everything he could to keep it. He was killed that game, smoked. Any word you can describe for a quarterback to step back in the pocket and get swamped by sexy Dexter Lawrence. It
Oh
was
man.
it was bad, and you can even see it on that last play where I mean, throw short of the line of scrimmage. I mean, now no normal person can be well. If you go look back at the play, it was, which I hate that we do a lot of it. It's basically 3-person routes. You have, I think it was JJ on like a deep post. KJ was on, I think, a little shallower post or a corner. I don't remember. And then it was Hawkinson coming out of the backfield. And I think if you had maybe a second, I think Dalvin was like scooting out of the backfield on the left side, which if you
Oh,
gave him a second, I think Dalvin probably could have made a man miss and got the first down. But I mean, I get the reasoning of you're going to lose the game anyway. Throw the ball deep, let Justin Jefferson make a play. But JJ can
yeah.
only do so much. And how many times have Hawkinson broken that tackle and ran for another 10, 15 more yards? Yeah, I hate how that whole game has been put on that one play where our defense made Daniel Jones get paid a 5-year, $200 million contract.
Yeah, I think about that. That is You know what? Everything happens for a reason, though. We'll be back this year. And for some reason, I did not write this down. I was there at the game. The Colts and Vikings 33-0 comeback. My goodness. I was there. How did I not put this down? That is probably my favorite moment. And Minneapolis
That
Miracle probably won. Colts number 2. That was an incredible game.
I was going to bring that up earlier when you were talking about games you can rewatch. I think I've rewatched the second half
Yes.
highlights of that game
Yes.
multiple times. That was my buddy's birthday was the night before, so we were all having fun, as you can imagine how I was the next
I can
morning.
imagine.
They actually all went to the game. So my buddy and his girlfriend and her family were all at the game watching it. I was sitting on my couch out there, and it obviously started to go bad. It was blocked punt. Matt
Terrible.
Ryan looking like MVP season Matt Ryan. It was not great. And then obviously going into half 33-0. I like to say it because I did say it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I knew it. But after their first score with KJ and that deep throw, I was like, all right, you only need like 4 more touchdowns or something. And our offense have scored quick this year. And my parents was like, yeah, all right, sweetie, like pat on the head, like, yeah, good, you can believe what you want. And then was it JJ scored again quick. And then I mean, what 2-3 more touchdowns later, it's 21 33, and we're like, oh crap, this is a real thing, because there's like 2 minutes left in the third. It was like, oh crap, we can do
Mhm.
this. And then that hope kind of slipped away when Regner stopped running that route and Kirk threw that interception towards the end of the game. It was just like, what are you doing, man? And then crazy, our defense stepped up, forced another 3-and-out, and then marched down the field again, scored another touchdown. And then finally which we're, again, I say it, I'm really mad Dalvin left us and we didn't give him a little more money. That Dalvin screen pass that he took 70
So
yards to the
amazing. That lit
house.
the stadium up.
Oh, I mean, and then that dart to Hawkinson to get the 2 points. We just came back 33 points. It's ridiculous. It's was so fun to watch, right?
Uh-huh.
Like you can't imagine you sitting there just watching the team slowly take, like you see them like garbage time. Oh, they won 21-35. Yeah, well, they were up 35 at half. They just didn't
Yeah.
really do anything. But that was probably one of the best and most special games I've watched.
Yes, my videos I have of me there, they show how crazy it was, but they can't capture what's like when you have 70,000, 65, 69,000, whatever people all going ballistic when he kicked that field goal. And I mean, honestly, we went more crazy at other plays in the game when like we were scoring. I think KJ caught a touchdown or something. I mean, there's almost too many highlights. You could say everyone on the team got a big play in the second half.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, that's the game that gave Paul Allen some little national fame there when he was ripping on everyone. He was like, the punter, he punts it. He's awful. He can't do anything right. Matt Ryan, you stink. He was just going off with him. And then the NFL world loved it. So do that
I
as
love
you
Paul
will.
Allen. He's like
Agreed.
the only
Agreed.
announcer who, maybe besides the Hornets announcers for the NBA, that have highlight reels on, like, YouTube where he's saying funny things. I love him.
Yeah, Paul's agreed. Great guy.
All right, Dane, so let's go into a little ranking I saw for the week 1 quarterbacks. We have all 32 quarterbacks ranked. This is from SB Nation. Have you ever heard of that?
I believe so, yes.
Popular sporting site or whatever that does articles. And I wrote down their rankings, and I figured I'd get your opinions on all the starting quarterbacks to kick off the first week of the NFL.
I like it.
All right, so we'll start at the bottom. Number 32, they have Clayton Tune / Josh Dobbs, whoever the Cardinals decide to start. No hope for the Cardinals week 1.
Yeah, it's against Washington, who obviously, due to our blind rankings, I have a pretty high opinion on.
They have a
But
good defense,
it's,
I mean.
yeah, the Cardinals are basically doing everything but actually saying they're tanking. I mean, supposedly they named Kyler Murray a captain, so their plan is to have him play sometime this year. Is that going to happen? No, but even week 2 of preseason, they're shipping players off for dirt cheap. Isaiah Simmons, one of the best linebackers and defensive players in general in the NFL, 5th-round pick. Here you go. It was
Yeah,
like, I mean, it was like, hell, I would have liked the Vikings to throw in a 5th-round pick for Isaiah Simmons. That would have been
I
great.
wish.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. 32.
Yeah, I'll get back to tanking in like four quarterbacks because I want to touch on that for a team. Moving into 31, CJ Stroud of the Texans.
Yeah, I think it's more, and I'm feeling there's a lot of the rookies down there. It's just the unproven. You don't really know Houston. You don't really know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Little unproven weapons down in Houston. I think CJ will probably be fine.
Same. I
Ohio
thought he
State
was a
quarterbacks.
bit low on this list personally, but he's a rookie, so it's easy to say we don't know what's going to happen.
Agreed.
Which leads me into 30, Bryce Young of the Panthers. I mean, him and CJ, they're like two different sides of a coin. Like they're both leading new teams. I'd say the Panthers have more weapons than the Texans, but the Panthers, I honestly feel it's like you did a what do they call it? A fantasy draft on a Madden. What do they call it?
Yeah, the fantasy draft. Yeah.
I mean, they just added so many different players and just all combined them onto one team.
Yeah, I did laugh when they like started doing their little free agency gathering, and then ESPN or something was like, the Carolina Panthers are collecting weapons, and it was like 34-year-old Adam Thielen, wide receiver 2 DJ Chark, Hayden Hurst. It was like,
Miles Sanders.
oh yeah,
They're actually
it was like
pretty good.
Miles Sanders is okay, but he's never really been a lead back. He's always been in a running back by committee system, but I don't know. I think their rookie, Mingo, I think his name is. I think he'll do pretty decent. I think Thielen will be a very friendly quarterback target, like he's always been. Very good hands, great red zone target. Um, don't really know anything about DJ Chark. Sorry, but I don't know. I think I can agree with that. 30, just the unknown. You don't really know what they're going to produce.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just seeing the similarities on their list here. As number 29 is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's I would have probably put him at 31 and moved everyone else up one. I am not a huge believer in Anthony Richardson. I wasn't at the draft. Um, I don't, especially with the Colts organization kind of tumbling in on itself.
Bad
No
stuff
really
in
wide
Indianapolis.
receivers. Agreed. You got Pittman, and that's really about it at wide receiver. They may have added one or two, but Anthony Richardson, he's so unproven, and honestly, his stats weren't great. He started only 13 games in college, which if you go back and look at quarterbacks that were drafted high that only
Mhm.
started less than 20 games, it's not great. I think Kyler Murray is maybe the best out of that list, and even then, he's been he had one good year, and he's been underwhelming. But I'm not a huge believer in Anthony Richardson. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 220, but
Big boy.
I don't know, man. I'm not a huge believer in Anthony Richardson.
No, but I do like what you're saying. I would maybe move him a bit down more compared to CJ and Bryce. Moving into number 28, Baker Mayfield with the Bucks.
You know, I liked Baker coming out of college, and I thought he was fine in Cleveland. Cleveland kind of let him down by actually letting him play before his shoulder healed, and then he started turning into a noodle arm. But before that injury, he was a stud. I still like Baker. I think he's got that little bit of dog in him still. Carolina obviously wasn't great. It wasn't awful, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the worst thing in the world. And
That
then
Rams Monday night game, that went good for him. Good
I
moment
was just
for him.
gonna say, I knew there was another team in between there. I totally forgot what it was, but yeah, that was sick. I loved watching that game. That Van Jefferson drive, that touchdown.
Uh,
Even Mike Tirico, I think he called that. It was just like, this is incredible. What is this? It was. I like Baker. Obviously, he deserves to be pretty low on this list because he hasn't really proven much. And Tampa Bay, their offense, we'll see.
yeah, we'll see indeed. Reeling back into that tanking thing I was saying is I can definitely see the Bucks trying to tank to maybe get Caleb Williams, their QB. That's just so uncertain. I mean, Tom Brady, it worked out. They got a Super Bowl, but after he was gone, they were kind of screwed. So I think Baker is better than the other QBs they could have gotten. But I do think they might tank this season. I don't know though. Thoughts?
I mean, it's going to be hard because Arizona basically has 2 first-round picks because of that Will Anderson trade last year. So they
You're
basically
right.
have to be worse than Houston and Arizona, which is going to be really hard to do. So I supposedly it's a pretty. I don't know if they're all going to be in this draft, but the quarterbacks at the collegiate level right now, there's a lot of talent there. So maybe
Mhm.
it's not so much a tank, but you get a top 10 pick. Maybe you can find some pretty decent talent somewhere. But do I think they're going to tank? Probably not, just because this year, with all the picks Arizona has, it's going to be really hard to get Caleb Williams, who is the only person really worth tanking for.
I love it, I love it. Number 27, Desmond Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons.
We talked about it earlier. Unproven talent. You don't really know what he's going to be.
Uh,
He's got a lot of weapons around him. If he can manage the game, who knows? We'll see.
yeah, I mean, I remember I used to do I think it was the last Madden. If you went on to the 2020 this upcoming season, like last season would have been Madden. If you went to this season in Madden, Desmond Ridder was winning MVP. So I don't know what was going on with my Madden leagues that I was running, but Desmond Ridder, gosh, is this sophomore year? Is this junior year, sophomore year?
Sophomore, yeah, he was a rookie last year.
I will say learning under Marcus Mariota isn't probably the best teacher. So I think the running back room will have to save him.
Agreed.
Agreed. All right, number 26, Russell Wilson of the Broncos. I personally love that he's this low. He was so high last year. I actually drafted him in fantasy last year, and he has honestly, he could retire. I wouldn't even care.
I have a deep hatred for Russell Wilson.
Good.
I there's it happened like I mean between the videos of the Mr. Unlimited and basically him saying he rehabbed 19 hours a day for a finger injury. And that was a story on like I don't remember if it was ESPN or Fox NFL Sunday. That was
One
like
of them.
a 10 that was like a 5-minute story that they like did a whole interview on. And I just was I can't stand that man. If there's a definition of a it's all about me guy, that's Russell Wilson. It is, and I don't even think he realizes how like self-centered in his own world he is,
Mhm.
but he will just
You've said it perfectly. I feel like he almost feels he's humble for some reason, where in reality, he definitely knows he's like, okay, I'm married to this singer actress, a super popular woman. I've gotten millions of dollars. I was a Super Bowl champion. I was a star in Seattle. And now that he's for some reason just become washed up out of just in the last 2 years, he's definitely in his head. You said it perfectly.
yep, we're just gonna leave it at that before I
It
start cursing
it's
at
gonna
him.
bring me joy watching Mahomes and Herbert throw touchdowns on him all day.
Agreed.
All right, number 25, we already talked about him earlier, Mac Jones of the Patriots. Just mediocre. Just another
Yeah,
QB.
yeah, exactly. He's a worse version of Tom Brady. That's really all you can say.
That's all you can say. He's the typical QB that Bill Belichick loves.
More or
I feel like
less.
it's just copy and paste in New England. I mean, you had Jimmy Garoppolo, you've had Tom Brady, I mean, Bailey Zapp. I mean, just I feel like they're all the same. Number
Yep.
24, Sam Howell.
Yeah, I mean, even these guys, granted, it's not his rookie year, but as his second year, they put him up a little more than everyone because he's shown some flashes of decency. When he played at the end of last year, he looked pretty good. So I I like Sam Howell. I think he's got a big arm, and I think that's kind of what they were missing last year, especially with how fast Scary Terry is and Joan Dotson. I like it.
Perfect. Like, they need a quick release with those guys. You had was Wenson last year?
Heineke,
Heineke was
maybe.
your but Heineke was out for a bit.
So I think maybe it was Wentz. I'm trying to
It
remember
was
where
one
he's
of
been.
them, but you're right. They're a quick trigger type of guy, and they can get up there, especially Scary Terry. He can jump up and get some balls. Be
Yes,
interesting to
sir.
see what Sam Howell brings. Number 23, Jordan Love. Personally, I would have had him maybe a couple spots lower. I don't know if just because I hate the Packers. I don't expect anything good from Jordan Love this year.
I, which is so bizarre to say, I don't think they'll be that awful, and I kind of want them to be the second place team again. I just
Really?
I'm preying on Chicago's and Detroit's downfall. I'm really preying on their downfall. So I think Jordan Love will be okay. Do I think they hit pay dirt 3 times in a row and have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback at their disposal? No. Utah boy. I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Uh,
I think he looks decent.
yeah,
That's what we're gonna say.
honestly, I can't hate too much. He has to follow in the footsteps of Aaron Rodgers, so he's filling a hole he can't fill. So we'll see what he offers. Number 22, Brock Purdy. I feel like he's kind of low. I mean, he was great in the playoffs, personally, in my opinion, and this will be his first regular season leading the helm. And as of right now, it's just him in the in San Francisco.
Yeah, I I need to see a few little more out of Brock Purdy, especially this year with a full off season, especially after that shoulder injury where most people didn't think he'd actually play at all this year, but he's I guess starting week 1. Um, I mean, it's a great story for the 6, 7, 8 games he played last year, but he didn't show anything crazy special. It showed he was basically a point guard, just passing the ball off to all these weapons and seeing how they play. So,
You make a good point. He had so many weapons last year in the playoffs. It was easy to look good when you're throwing it up to Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey to the side, Kittle. Such a good point. Let's move into number 21, Daniel Jones from the Giants.
I'd actually put him up a little higher. I
I like
like
it.
Danny Dimes. I think he's just a naturally athletic dude. Is he the most accurate passer in the world? No. Does he sometimes make some stupid mistakes? Yeah. But I mean, as long as Saquon stays there, which he seems to be, obviously he signed his 1 year deal for like a $500,000 raise. So
Yeah.
good for him. Glad he was holding out for that. But I like Daniel Jones. I guess we'll see. I think he deserves to be a few spots higher, but we'll see.
I don't know if it's because Daniel Jones, like, he runs at times. He's because of his haircut. He reminds me of Peter Parker, Spider-Man, of like a nerd becoming a superhero, like Daniel Jones becoming a starting quarterback and getting paid millions of dollars.
I mean, he is from Duke, so do with that as you will.
He's probably a smart guy. All right, top 20, number 20, Ryan Tannehill. I guess since he's a veteran, he's high, but I mean maybe D-Hop raises his value, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same here. Tennessee has never really been a potent passing team with him at the helm. Derrick Henry's always just been the guy, and he's been a play action timer to a wide receiver to. But anytime they're in like a passing situation, usually doesn't turn out well. So 20 is probably an accurate spot for Tannehill.
Yeah, I agree. All I think of with the Titans is that they were the last team to beat Tom Brady on the Patriots. That's other than that, but have they ever made it far in recent years? I don't think so.
Nope, they're the number 1 seed and got upset by Cincinnati 2 years ago. That'll tell you.
That was an odd number 1 seed. I don't know how they worked their way up there. Let's get into number 19. A certain man. We know someone that loves this man. Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, he was not great last year. He was really kind of bad last year. I think his stats were in the 13 games he played. It was like 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and
Oh,
9 picks. It was bad. Um, he had. I mean, you can make the excuse that Najee Harris was semi-injured last year, but he came back at the end. He had Pickens all last year. He had Deontay Johnson. He had his weapons. Freiermuth. I don't know what's going to change this year. You can say, oh, he looked great in preseason, but it's preseason. You can say he played against the ones. The ones didn't care. They knew they made the
no.
team. We have to wait and see at the regular season. I think 19 is probably a decent spot for him.
Good spot for him. Number 18, Jimmy Garoppolo of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I like Jimmy G. I think he's a better quarterback than people make him out to be.
Yep.
He's, a better version of Brock Purdy, more or less. He's just less expensive, which is why the 49ers moved on from him instead of sticking with Purdy, who Mr. Irrelevant's probably making $750,000 a year. Probably not making anything. So
No.
why pay a guy 25 to 30 million when you can pay a guy less than $1 million per year? So I don't know. He's a good point guard is more or less what it is. Just hand the ball off. He's not going to beat you slinging the ball, but
No.
he can distribute it.
Average guy. Not much to say about Jimmy G. He had his time with the 49ers, but now he is in Las Vegas. Hopefully he doesn't party his life away like another Raiders player.
We'll see.
Um, moving into number 17, I don't know how he's this low. Maybe I could understand. Justin Fields of the Bears is ranked at number 17.
Remember when I said I'm preying on Chicago and Detroit's downfall?
You did
The
mention
hype around Justin Fields being an MVP quarterback has just driven me up the wazoo. Uh, the dude's never passed for over 300 yards. He's coming off a 3-win season. Bears fans freak out when they lose 35-17, but Justin Fields ran for 200 yards and a touchdown. Okay, you lost by 3 scores.
Yeah.
I don't understand this just random hype around Justin Fields. And like, guys, look, he can throw a football, and they throw clips back at him at Ohio State. Okay, everyone can throw a football in college. That's why you're in the pros. But I can't. I think he should be down in the 20s.
It's an interesting opinion because he is one of those guys that people expect a lot of this year. Man. Okay. Okay, number 16, Deshaun Massage Watson of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that's him. And I mean, he showed sparks in Houston. Hasn't showed it since he decided to not take his year off and come back and stop touching women and play football. So we're just going to leave that up there. 16.
Yeah, we'll leave
Sure.
Deshaun there. We're not gonna give him airtime. Okay, top 15 now. Jared Goff, another man you're praying on his downfall.
Not so much. I like Goff. It's not so much him on himself. It's the whole Detroit is like the team to beat in the NFC. I don't know where it's come from. They don't have a losing season for the first time in a decade, and suddenly they're like favorited. They've had more talent on their roster in past years, and they haven't done anything with it. They went 0-16 with Calvin Johnson on the roster. I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of Dan Campbell, all the way back to his bite off kneecap days, and then Hard Knocks when they covered him last year. Maybe just dislike him even more. He seems like a college coach that somehow put himself into the pros, and you can see that there's been plenty of times where his coaching decisions have screwed the team from winning games. There was one against Chicago. It may have even been Thanksgiving 2 years ago, where towards the end of the game, he just made like blatant, I think it was bad timeouts. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like blatant coaching errors. And it was like, what are you doing? You just cost your team a win. And at the time they were, I think, 0-10, which of course they beat the Vikings then 2 weeks later. But yeah, it's not so much Jared Goff. It's the whole aroma or just aura around Detroit winning it all.
Yeah, Jared Goff got some weapons this year. I wish him some luck. Good for him. He's moved on from his Rams days. I forget at times he led a Super Bowl team. He led a team to the Super Bowl.
Granted, they only scored 9 points in that Super Bowl, but
3 points.
To each their own. To each their own. 3. Oh, it was 3-9. Sorry, 9 was the winning team.
Oh, I think it was 10. I think Gronk got that TD towards the end. Remember that?
3-10.
I'm trying to think. Not that much.
Yeah, it's not.
Number 14, Derek Carr on the Saints.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning, all the way at the beginning of how we think he's going to improve their offense with Olave and Michael Thomas hopefully coming back, Kamara sneaking his way back. They drafted a rookie running back who was supposed to be, I think, is like Kendre Miller or something like that.
It's supposed to be good.
Jimmy Graham, I mean, say what you will, but in that preseason game, he showed signs of Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham hookup. So
I see the
we'll see
league.
if
My boy Jimmy Graham, he loves football too much.
yes, sir.
All right, number 13. 13. Tua Tagovailoa.
Um, I mean, that team has so much potential if they stay healthy. Is the matter of that's the name of the game. Tua, will he play a full season with his concussion past? Will their running backs stay healthy? Is Jalen Waddle even healthy enough to play? Their whole team, their biggest question mark is injuries. And if Tua can stay healthy, they should be a pretty decent team and probably a contender. That whole AFC East is, other than really the Patriots, is a bunch of powerhouses. So we'll see if Tua stays healthy to compete. Is the
Yeah, man.
question.
He can be super good, but he has concussions. I mean, if this guy takes one more hit like he did last season, he could die. He could actually die. The brain injuries he could suffer from. I mean, he
Yeah,
should not have. What did I believe that concussion ordeal last year resulted in people getting like federally sued or something, like the team trainer or something.
yeah, I think there was something like that. I mean, the biggest one is it changed the NFL rules, which that's led to going back to the Vikings Colts game. That's what led to Jalen Reagor being on the field because Stephon Gilmore gave a little cheap shot to Justin Jefferson, like headbutted him in the face, and he had to go off the
Oh,
field for the concussion eval. And Justin was fuming because he'd be like, "I'm fine. What are you doing?" And but that new rule that came in
okay.
made him go off the field. So
Yeah,
that
that's bad. I don't
whole
like that.
that whole concussion, I don't know if the rules are going to be the same. They tend to die down towards the end of the year, which I mean, whatever is fine, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
very true. Let's keep it rolling. Number 12, the return season of Matthew Stafford on the Rams.
Yeah, that whole team again, it's the exact same thing. Can you stay healthy? That they everyone more or less got hurt last year. Cooper, Stafford, half the row line, some of the running backs, their defense. It was kind of sad to watch after
Yeah.
quite a dramatic fall from grace. But Cam Akers showed signs of spark last year towards the end of the year. Hopefully Cooper's hamstring stays healthy. Um, who knows? Stafford hopefully can be decent. I'm actually surprised he's this high up on the list, to be frank.
hmm Yeah, honestly, it'll be interesting to see how he does this year. His weapons have downgraded, honestly. I mean, Cooper Cup's now more hurt. Uh, gosh, I don't even know what to say. We'll see how he does. I wish him luck. Matthew Stafford's a good dude. I do not hate Matthew Stafford in the slightest.
Agreed.
Number 11, another dude that I like, Geno Smith, leading the Seahawks. Again, I don't know for how long. I feel like they're trying to get what's his name in there? Drew Lock. Isn't he their second string right now?
Yeah, he came over in that trade from Denver to that put Russell Wilson
Oh,
back, and I'm
Lock.
assuming before preseason that was the goal was to start Drew Lock, and he looked pretty good this preseason. But again, I've said it 7 times now. It's preseason. What are you gonna really learn from that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Geno Smith is one of those. He was benched and almost out of the league for a reason. He had one flash in the pan season, which good for him. Last year, I mean, that probably did wonders for him, and especially in his future. He got paid
Yep.
where he was not making very much money beforehand, but I haven't totally bought into that Geno Smith hype. He we'll just see. He's got his weapons now. Will he continue that success, or will he kind of revert back to the Geno we all saw for the last decade?
Very true. They wrote him off. He did not write back. He also scored over 300 fantasy points last year. Somehow, he just snuck in a 300 fantasy point season. I don't even know where that came from. Moving into our top 10, I wish he was a bit higher. I would put him a bit higher. The most underappreciated quarterback in the league. He gets all the blame. It's not his fault. That is right. Our own, the beloved Kirk Chains, Kirk Cousins at the number 10 spot.
Yeah, that's probably about the right spot for him. He's got all the weapons now. If his defense even is mid to high teens, I think we'd have a pretty successful team. Our offense puts up points and they can put up points quickly with JJ. Our running game is now a little suspect, so it's going to be more on him and his
Yeah.
arm. But Kirk going into contract years, usually pretty good. And he's going into his contract year. I have a feeling the Vikings are trying to get younger and so they'll move on. But that brings into a lot of questions of what Justin Jefferson will want. Will he want to be catching passes from a rookie or some random second year? Or will he want to go to an established quarterback? Obviously, Kirk's given him record breaking numbers we haven't seen before out of a wide receiver his first 4 years. I like the guy. I hope he sticks around until he retires. But yeah, against Tampa Bay, he should shred them up.
We should tear up Tampa Bay, man. This should be our bounce back game. We should start off the season with a dominant performance like last year. When we
Agreed.
ran the Packers, it brought in all the momentum.
Agreed.
Number 9, Dak Prescott of the Cowboys. Oh, interesting choice.
Yeah.
Number 9.
If Dak Prescott didn't play for the Cowboys, he'd be treated much worse than Kirk Cousins. He is a worse version of Kirk Cousins. He's never really done anything. He misses. He's had some of the best talent around him and has accomplished so little. Maybe it's just because I don't like the Cowboys because they have to flaunt it in everyone's face.
I don't blame you.
But not a huge Dak Prescott guy. He's a worse version of Kirk Cousins, and I guess we'll see what he does this year. He can completely prove me wrong by throwing for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, but until I see it, oh well.
Yeah, Cowboys got weapons. Dak's back. We'll see how he does. Number 8, same number that he wears, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. I think you may have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, we covered a lot of it when we talked about fantasy guys. He's coming off a leg injury, and I was really scared that the Vikings were going to do stupid Vikings things. And when he was having his whole contract dispute, throw in an offer to try and trade for him and waste 3 first-round picks for a guy that will play 1 year, take 1 hit in the knee, and be RG3 more or less. I really. I hope he's been one of the most exciting players. I had him on my fantasy team when he won MVP, so it was great.
Me too.
I mean, he's been a really exciting player to watch, but running quarterbacks after a knee injury are never the same, and I don't feel like Lamar is going to be any different.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to do this year. The injuries have definitely held him back. He could be good with that Ravens squad, but I mean, I've been following him since college, and I'll never forget when he fell so low in the draft. I wasn't even that experienced as I was with what I know now about the NFL, and even I was watching him fall, and I'm like, someone's got to pick him up. But hey, and at the time I was like, oh, Joe Flacco, what? Joe Flacco's going to be around a long time, and Lamar took over his spot right away.
Yep.
All right, number 7. Aaron Rodgers now on the Jets all the way up to 7. Is it because he's great, or do you think he's actually going to make a huge impact this year?
Oh, I think he's the quarterback that they needed, and hopefully his impact kind of rubs off on Zach Wilson to even continue that. And he shows signs of that. Even I keep saying it because that's the only football we have right now. But in preseason, Zach looked pretty good. He kind of looked Aaron Rodgers-esque with the way he was throwing it and the way he was moving it. So I like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to make that team an incredibly viable squad.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree, honestly. He is as good as he says he is. And as much as thank goodness there's not too many of these, but him scorching the Bears or him scorching, who was it in preseason? You know, the one guy that was talking crap to him.
Oh,
Did
the
you see that?
Giants, Jihad Ward.
Yes, I mean, dude could back up his talk, and now that he's out of the NFC North, I can actually root for Aaron Rodgers because I could care
Agreed.
less who wins in the AFC.
Agreed.
Number 6 in the AFC, the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence up to 6 now. I mean, definitely has worked his way up from last year. Definitely has an upgraded team. They seem to be getting a bit better every year. This could be a good year for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars.
Yeah, that's a pretty high spot for them. I would have put them probably around that 8-9 spot. But I guess they believe in Jacksonville. Obviously, they impressed last year with that comeback win in the playoffs, but then didn't really back it up the week later. But
No,
I mean, they've got talent there. I think Calvin Ridley is definitely going to help Trevor Lawrence. So who knows? I think they'll be a pretty, like, as we said, it's their division to lose.
very true. All right, the top 5, according to SB Nation, QBs head into week 1. Do you have a prediction before I begin?
I'm going to say this one is Burrow.
It is Jalen Hurts. They have Jalen Hurts at the number 5 spot. You were just about to say it. It was on the tip of your
I
tongue.
was you heard that coming out,
Yeah,
but yeah. I didn't because every media source I've seen has been like Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback. The NFC, they're gonna Eagles going Super Bowl again. So I just figured they'd have him at like 2 or 3. But I mean, Hurts before last year was not great. The Eagles lost their defensive and offensive coordinators, so we'll see if that replicates. I don't know. There's definitely some spots where the Eagles were just so good everywhere else where it could make up for some of Jalen Hurts' very few mistakes he made last year. He had
Yeah.
a really good season, but I don't think it'll carry over, and I don't think the Eagles will be as dominant as they were last year.
It's honestly, they've upgraded so much. I feel they've added some of their teams, if you want to say it like that, new draft picks. I got Jalen as a QB in one of my 12-man leagues. I love the guy, but number 5, an okay spot for him. At number 4, I don't know if I'm gonna get flagged for this, but I think this guy's overrated. Justin Herbert at the number 4 spot.
I love Gerbert. Again, another random guy that I've got his jersey. He's a gunslinger, man. That dude, there was one game last year where I think he broke his rib, and he threw an absolute piss missile. It was like 40 yards on a rope to one of his wide receivers. He is so unbelievably talented. And I know it's the always joke, it's never his fault. Obviously that team hasn't had a lot of success, especially in the postseason last year when they gave up that lead to Jacksonville. But they've got some talent this year. Hopefully they can get some use out of Keenan Allen before he retires eventually.
Yep.
That Quentin Johnson they drafted is supposed to be a big goal line target. So hopefully him and Mike Williams can cause some issues on the offensive side. So I like it. I like Gerbert.
Yeah, I think it's just I feel like I always just hear people talking about him, and then he has an off week or the Chargers finish badly, and I'm like, oh, I thought he was supposed to be this big guy, but hey, who am I to say? I'm not the leading quarterback for the Chargers. I can't say nothing. All right, into our top 3. You almost had him. Who's number 3, Dane?
Is that Burrow?
It is Joe Burrow at the number 3 spot.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. There's no really denying that. Drug an awful Cincinnati offensive line, and really, other than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins' offense, to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. What more can you say? Dude's an absolute stud.
Absolute stud. I hope he can heal up quickly, and I don't believe he's starting week 1, if I'm correct.
He might be. That's still up in the air.
We'll have to see how that goes. All right, you have your 2 and 1. Do you have a guess who's number 2 and who's
It better
number
be
1?
Allen and then Mahomes.
You would be spot on. Josh Allen at number 2, Patrick Mahomes obviously at number 1. If Patrick Mahomes is going to be at the top of every list, even if the Chiefs are 0-5. The media loves Patrick Mahomes, but good for Allen making it up to the number 2 spot on this list.
Yeah, rightfully so. Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the best quarterbacks, I mean, most generations have ever seen in their lifetime. It's
True.
arguably, if he, as dark as it is, if he died today, there's a good chance he's a first ballot Hall of Famer from what he's put up right now.
Easily.
He is one of my favorite players to watch. I know his family is all controversial, and that's the
Weird
reason
family.
he's not really liked. But Patrick Mahomes is easily one of the most likable guys in the NFL. He doesn't cause a lot of drama. In the show Quarterback, he raised a little controversy because he was very much a me guy when he was like smack talking. He was like, I did that. I do that. But
Oh.
whatever. That's a moment in a heated rivalry game. You can't really make a guy's character off of that. So yeah, Patrick Mahomes deserved to be one, and then Josh Allen, love the guy. Dude's insanely talented, giant arm. Hopefully, he's not regressing to his rookie / second year season where he kind of just flung it all
Hope
over the
not.
place and relied on his legs too much. So love those two at 2 and 1.
I like it. I like it. Not a perfect list, but honestly, not too bad. Not too many things I'd change. It's just one website's list, but I like what it offers. It gives us a good perspective of how the media is viewing these guys, and also what we can expect. Because Mahomes is supposed to be the best. He probably will be the best this season.
Agreed.
So, as you know, we do have limited time, so I am going to go into a little game. I'm going to have another game for you. We're not ranking things. I'm going to have you guess some stadium. So, I'm going to give you a stadium, and I'm going to see if you can tell me what team it belongs to.
Excellent. All right.
All right, you ready to dive in?
I am.
Let's get it. Everbank Stadium. Do you know whose stadium that is?
I feel is that it's not Cincy, is it?
It is not the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll give you another guess. You'll get 2
Ever
guesses each one.
Everbank. Uh, geez, that's one I don't think I have ever heard of. Uh, the
No clue?
49ers. Just-
It is actually the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium, Everbank
Oh,
Stadium.
that's why. That's from what I've heard and from every list, that stadium's a dump and it's gonna get replaced sometime soon because the ocean air just deteriorates that place.
Yeah, I when I was looking up some of these names, I was like, "Wow, this stadium was built how long ago? How this place is." Oh my gosh. All right. Next up, FedEx Field.
Oh God, I'm trying to. I have it. I know who it is. Just stop. Is that is that the Deadskins? The Washington Redskins?
That would be the Commander Stadium,
Okay,
FedEx
cool, cool,
Field.
cool,
Very
cool,
good. 1 for
cool,
1.
cool.
Okay. Highmark Stadium.
Highmark Stadium. Is that Tennessee?
It is not Tennessee. Correct
Oh,
conference though.
oh, excellent. Highmark. Is that one Cincinnati?
That is not Cincinnati. That's actually the home of the Bills.
Oh, is it really?
Highmark Stadium, where Josh Allen is the king.
Hmm.
Do you want to say he's the king of Buffalo? I don't, but moving in, you're now 1 and 2. You got 3 more left. All right, time
All
to
right.
rally.
Need to go positive.
Lumen Field.
Oh, that's Seattle. I know that one.
Lumen Field, 2 and 2 now. Paycor Stadium.
What the hell are these names? Paycor.
Paycor.
Um,
Paycor.
I'm gonna keep
Any
guessing it because I'm gonna keep shooting for it. Is that Cincinnati?
That would be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Alrighty, you are 3 and 2 to go. You're either gonna go 500 or you're gonna go over 500. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
State Farm Stadium.
Uh,
State Farm Stadium. I believe this was recently renamed because I
is
thought
that
I knew the
the
name.
Cardinals?
The Cardinals?
Yeah,
That would be the Cardinals. 4-2. Very nice. Good job.
let's go.
Yeah, I mean, Highmark Stadium. I mean, I would never think the Bills played there. I recognize their stadium, but I never knew the name of it, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like it's called something else. Maybe it's just called Buffalo. Like they never say the name of the stadium. Usually just called Buffalo on TV.
Mhm.
Maybe I just don't never heard it, but yeah, no
Yeah.
clue.
So,
Embarrassing.
also give you two more trivia questions. Why don't you? Do you know which stadium houses the most fans? Which NFL stadium houses the most fans?
I'm assuming it's Jerry's World in Dallas.
It is not the AT&T Stadium. Close,
Huh.
super close. I am getting this from Wikipedia though, so I mean, my seating could be off.
Then is it New Orleans? Do they have the newest
No,
one?
go up the East Coast.
Of the weird. Is it MetLife?
It is MetLife Stadium. Do you know how
Weird.
many? Do you know how many?
I'm assuming it's like 71,000 or something.
82,500.
Jeez.
It had 2,500 more than AT&T Stadium.
Jeez.
According, but I mean, obviously, that could easily be changed. They always add little seats in everywhere. So yeah, MetLife Stadium houses the most fans, and it opened back in 2010. So I mean, 13 years of MetLife Stadium. Excuse me. Do you know which one has the least amount?
Uh, let's go Cleveland.
No, you actually guessed it. It was actually one of the 6 stadiums we just guessed.
Oh, ew. Is it Arizona?
It is not. It is actually the Commanders. FedEx Field houses the least football fans. Do you want to guess how many?
Uh, 59.
58,000. Just about. Opened in 1997. Man, you almost had that. How many NFL stadiums have you been to?
Shoot, I gotta think. I've been obviously it's a U.S. Bank.
Same.
Um, Lambeau we went
Same.
to. Weird one. We went to for a family trip. We were down in Tennessee, so I've been to the Titans Stadium.
How about that?
Speaking of the Cardinals, we stopped by that stadium when we were down in Arizona. My parents go to Vegas and they've seen the Vegas stadium, if that counts. But
That's a cool stadium, I bet.
it is. It looks. I think my dad sent a picture of it, and it's a pretty cool stadium. I'm a fan of that one.
Didn't you guys go to Heinz or when it was Heinz
Yep,
Field?
we did go to Heinz Field
I thought.
and then Arrowhead because we went on a trip to
Hmm.
Kansas City, and I think they're still the baseball diamond and the football are like share a parking lot. It's
I
kind
think
of
that's
weird.
cool. That's a
Yeah,
unique stadium.
yeah. So I've been there. I think
Yeah.
that's it. I don't think we've Detroit or Soldier Field. I don't think we've ever been there. So
Good enough to end out our stadium talk. We'll go with what state do you think should add a football team to it? And we'll actually go with 2 since they would need to even out the divisions. So what 2
yeah,
states should add a team?
I think I honestly St. Louis deserves a football team back. I think they should get a squad back. And then probably God, I don't know. I'm trying to think where maybe one of the Virginias. Maybe they can throw a team
Yeah,
there.
they could get one.
I don't
I
know if they
personally
got
like
many sports squads, but
I personally like an Oklahoma football team.
I
Something
feel
to
like there's a
combat the
little
Sooners, maybe?
yeah, there's a little too much football down in Texas right now. I think with the Dallas and Houston and that whole area, I feel like
Texas is crowded, you're right.
that would be a little controversial.
What else? What other stadium would you put one in Oregon?
Uh, I mean, there already is one in Seattle, so
Or Utah, maybe? I don't know. It's tough to
I
say.
guess I don't know what the sports crowd is. Obviously, they got the Jazz, and they just won the whatever NBA finals. So it's maybe
The
they've got a.
the Jazz did not win the NBA Finals. That was the Nuggets.
Oh, was it the Den? Oh my God, I'm dumb. I'm so dumb. Uh,
Hey, who knows? Maybe Donovan Mitchell will lead them to
it's
a
those
championship.
it's those damn West teams. It's stuck in my head.
All right, Dane, we have under 20 minutes left of our interview. Let's give our NFL Week 1 picks to round this out. How's that sound?
Awesome. I guess do you have them so I can just narc
I
off
do
your
have
work?
all the games listed out for you.
Awesome. Let's just narc off your work. I like it.
Let's get into it. We're kicking off. I mean, if you guys listened to the last episode, I gave a preview of our opening game between the Lions and Chiefs, but we're here live now with Dane, and he's going to give us his picks as well. All right. And our whole picks. Because actually, did you know, fun fact, if you listened to the last episode, is that the Chiefs and Lions have actually only played 14 times in history.
It's an
Very interesting.
interesting, very
Interesting
interesting.
thing. So, Lions and Chiefs, kick us off. What you got?
Chiefs by a lot. I not buying the hype. I think Chiefs are going to smoke them.
With or without Kelsey?
Yeah, I think they still got. I'm guessing it's going to be something like 35-21. I think it's going to smoke them.
I agree with you. Chiefs, it's going to be hard to bet against them. Maybe obviously they're not going undefeated personally with this squad. So we'll find a game to lose, but I do not think they're losing in Arrowhead in the season opener against the Lions.
Agreed.
Kicking off our 12 o'clock slate, Titans at Saints.
I got to give it to the Saints on this one. I think their offense is going to be pretty good. I don't know what Tennessee has to offer, so I'm not liking the Saints on that one.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm actually, this is going to be one of my oddball picks for the week. I'm going with the Titans just because I don't think Carr has that relationship just yet with the wide receivers. And I think Derrick Henry is going to tear apart the starting line for the Saints, in my opinion.
I
I'll say it's a 50-50 matchup. Saints are currently listed as the favorite by a bit. Next up, the one game that I know you and me will both be watching in full, Buccaneers at our Vikings. Do we even need to say who we think's going to win this one? I mean,
it better be the Vikings. Otherwise, my mood for the next week is going to be absolutely destroyed.
I expect them to win. I'm going plus 14. Give me at least a 2-touchdown victory here, Vikings. I really hope so.
Yeah, I don't know how much our defense has improved, but I'm hoping it's something.
Very much so. Next up, the Cardinals at the Commanders.
I'm taking Commanders by a lot.
All day.
Yep.
I just that Cardinals, they have nothing to offer. And honestly, they could go 0-17. They legit they have a bad roster. I'll say it.
They do. They do.
All right, this should be an interesting one. 49ers at the Steelers. 49ers currently a favorite. But I don't know. It's in Pittsburgh. Some things always happen.
I think it'll be the 49ers still, as we talked about. Brock Purdy just has to be a decent point guard and distribute that ball to all the weapons that they have. So I'm still going 49ers.
I completely agree with you. You can make a case the Steelers are at home, but when you have, at least in week 1, McCaffrey healthy, Kittle should be healthy, you'll have Debo. The whole team should be healthy to start out this game. They should be able to get done. Next up, divisional matchup, Bengals and Browns in Cleveland.
Well, I guess it all depends on if Burrow plays. If Burrow plays, it should be Cincinnati all the way. If he doesn't, it becomes much more of a toss-up. I
Yes,
got to. If Burrow plays, I think it's Cincinnati. If not, I hopefully the Browns can or do something. So
put it perfectly. Without Burrow, it's a toss-up. With Burrow, there's just no shot. Him and Chase will eat Cleveland alive, quite literally.
agreed.
All right, this one, I mean, this is the battle of new QBs. Panthers at Falcons, obviously divisional rivals. I don't know personally.
I think I got to give it to Atlanta. I think they've added some spots on defense just recently. Brian Burns, I don't know if he's officially holding out, the star pass rusher for Carolina. He's
Think
having
he did?
contract. Yeah, he's having contract disputes right now. So if he's out, that's a huge hit to that Carolina defense. And if they don't have him, there's not a whole hell of a lot stopping Atlanta from just running down their throats. So we'll see.
No,
I'm going
nothing
with
at all.
Atlanta.
I'm going with the Panthers. I'm rocking with my boy Adam Thielen, Minnesota alum, Viking. I'm not Minnesota State alum, Vikings alum. I'm gonna give them a chance. All right. I'm gonna say Miles Sanders does something. I'm gonna say Bryce Young does something. But who knows what'll happen. I'm not gonna ride or die on this team. No bets will be made on the Panthers. Okay.
Agreed.
A good return game for Lamar. The Texans at the Ravens. Who you rocking with?
Hoping it's the Ravens. We'll see. Hopefully everyone stays healthy and my predictions of faulty knees don't come true.
No, this should be a Ravens win. Texans are an average, below average team at this point. Good one here. Jaguars and Colts. I think we might be in consensus. What are you feeling?
I got the Jags. I think the Jags should run the Colts.
Agree completely. Don't really know what the Colts defense offers against Trevor Lawrence. With now, you got Zay Jones is now like the third or fourth string wide receiver, which shows how deep it is. Calvin Ridley's out there. Travis Etienne in the backfield. What other wide receiver? Christian Kirk. I mean, a lot of good weapons with this team. Moving into our 325 slate, we get to watch our divisional rivals tear each other apart as the Packers visit the Bears.
I think I think the Packers win that game.
Right.
Yeah, the Bears 3-win season. You can say all they want of how they've added pieces. They haven't really added meaningful pieces. DJ Moore is probably the best piece they added, and that's not the side of the ball that was. I mean, they were both bad last year, but their defense was atrocious. So we'll see. I'm thinking Green Bay shows what they've got in Jordan Love, and I think they pull out the win against Chicago.
You know, I respect that completely. I think the Packers can offer them some challenges, but my whole family's Bears fans. I'm going to give Justin Field the benefit of the doubt. Home opener in Chicago at Soldiers Field. He gets it done. He shows off some improvement in the arm game. DJ Moore gets something done. Maybe even Khalil Herbert pops off. I'm going to give the Bears this one.
Okay.
All right. This one, Eagles at Patriots. Should be a good start of the season for the Eagles.
It should. I think the Eagles take it. As we talked about, Patriots don't have a lot of reason to give resistance to the. Yeah.
And I honestly think the Patriots defense, besides this game, should be pretty good. When they're not playing a star team like the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, 49ers, I think this defense can really give some lower level teams some issues.
Agreed.
That's so. Rams at Seahawks. This could be a close one.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams, there's a lot of these games that are banking on injury. If Cooper Kupp's out, that's a huge swing for the Seattle Seahawks. So
Big swing.
with Cooper being kind of iffy right now, I think I got to give it to Seattle.
I agree with you completely. Geno Smith's under helm. I think he does historically well in game openers. I also think that the Seattle crowd will give issues to anyone returning. I'll go with the Seahawks. Why not? It doesn't really impact us here in Minnesota with our Vikings.
I like it.
The Dolphins at the Chargers. This is a good one. This could be
it is.
One.
I'm going to give it to the Chargers just for my love of Herbert. I think they're going to be pretty good this year, and I think hopefully it's a good game because we don't really know what Miami has when they're healthy because they've always been injured. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be close. I'm honestly feeling a Dolphins OT win, in my opinion. That's going to be my prediction. I think it could be one of the best games to start out the season. So I'm actually going to go with Dolphins over the Chargers here. But
I like it.
Easily Chargers could run away with this if the Miami backfield's not up for par.
I like it.
All right, rounding out the 325 games, Raiders at Broncos. Ugh, I hope this game is not on a regular TV station.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be the Raiders. I hope it is. They've got the talent, and who knows what Sean Payton's got. He can talk a lot of mean guy talk, saying everything was awful before I came here, but Bounty Gate coach can only do so much. I'm going Vegas.
Yeah, I'm not riding with the Broncos at all. Jerry Jeudy just got hurt. I mean, obviously, Cortland Sutton can do some stuff. I don't even know what they're going to do at running back. I feel like Javonte Williams, he's okay, but I mean, they could easily rotate some things around. I'm just gonna go with the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, I feel like he can do some nasty things to that Broncos D line.
Agreed.
Sunday Night Football, we are treated with the Cowboys at the Giants.
I think as much as I hate to say it, I think the Cowboys got him. I think it's going to be a little too much for him. Yeah, so I think I got to take the boys.
Yeah, Cowboys Giants. They usually split. Very very competitive games. Usually good divisional matchup. I'll have to agree with you. Okay, let's get into it. I feel like they always put the new QB on a Monday night game. We got the Bills at the Jets. Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers. Who you rocking with?
I think just because they're so new, they haven't maybe put the chemistry together yet against the well-oiled machine of Buffalo. I think Buffalo is going to come in, give them a little slap on the mouth, get them used to working together, and I think that's the catalyst that's going to set the Jets forward. But I think Buffalo is going to go and smack them on the mouth Monday night.
I completely agree. I think it's going to take some time for these Jets players to get used to playing under Aaron Rodgers because they haven't played under a good quarterback. I mean, truly, I tell you, the last good quarterback with some veteran experience was probably Joe Flacco, who left a little bit for them. Am I wrong? Who?
Yeah,
Who else
even
was
then,
there?
Flacco was kind of washed
Kind of
out, but
washed. Yeah.
it hasn't really been anything. The last time they were even relevant playoff wise, I'm pretty sure it was when Mark Sanchez was there and they had Danian Tomlinson and
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's gonna take some getting used to for Garrett Wilson to be going from Zach Wilson and Mike White to Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, that's a huge upgrade, especially since you won Offensive Rookie of the Year with them. I do agree with you. I think the Bills get it done. They're in New York still. It's like as much as it's home field advantage for the Jets, it's not too big since they're both New York teams.
yep.
I very much love it. My must-watch game, going with the Vikings. But for a non-Vikings game, I'm going to say the Dolphins and Chargers. How about you?
Yeah, that's not a bad one. I mean, Monday Night Football, I think we just talked about it.
Yeah.
Bills Jets that's gonna be a big one. That's gonna show who's gonna be big brother in the AFC. So we'll
I
see.
agree completely, man. It's going to be a good opening week. And this has been a fun podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Dane.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Man, it's been fun. I mean, I had you blind rank some things. I had you guess stadiums. We reviewed all the quarterbacks, some fantasy football, made our week 1 picks. I mean, we went over a lot of things.
We did many games, much fun.
Much fun. Due to technical issues with the internet, you might not be back for another month or so. But
Maybe.
we could do some quarter check-ins, some monthly check-ins with the NFL. You're always invited back, Dane.
Sweet. I appreciate it. That would be great.
All right. Anything left you want to say? Want to plug a social? Give a message of anything? I always got to offer it up.
No, just remember to spade and neuter your pets. Control the pet population.
I
Bob
love it.
Barker.
Why not? Dane, thank you again for joining me. Thank you all for listening. Have a blessed day and go Vikings.